Another day on the Lions tour with a hell of a view behind me. That's Perth. These are the gardens, the area where just behind me there up the slope, the Lions had their welcome to country, the ceremony from the First Nations people where they were welcomed in. And the Lions are on the ground here in Australia. They arrived last night, so they had this morning. And I've just had a quick chat to Ben Calverley, the Lions CEO, and Ian Evans, chairman on this tour, Lions legend himself, of course. So I'll take you with me on the day. We're going to be speaking to a few different Lions players. One really interesting thing to come out of this morning is about the Wallabies players being released for the tour games. This has been a discussion beforehand. It's understood that Joe Schmidt isn't necessarily going to be releasing all of them. Some of them have been released for the Western Force game this weekend, but that might not be the case for the tour games that follow this. And Ben Calverley and Ian Evans was saying it is in the contract with Australia Rugby, with Rugby Australia, that those players would be released because the Lions want as competitive tour games as possible. That's definitely a storyline worth keeping an eye on. And actually, I think you can absolutely see where the Lions are coming from on this, can't you? Like, you have to have competitive tour games. And if you don't, you're just going to be undercooked for the Test series. They also said as well, actually, that obviously that wasn't the case in 2020. Let me just sort this out. It wasn't the case in 2021 because it was COVID and people were coming in and out of bubbles, so it wasn't possible necessarily to release all the players. That is the expectation. If it doesn't happen, then I think that could be a story that is going to develop on this tour. Let's hope the Lions get as competitive tour games as possible. But how about that for a view? In fact, why don't you hear from Ben Calverley on that exact topic? This is what he had to say regarding the Wallabies players being released for the tour games and wanting those matches to be as competitive as possible.
The agreement is very clear. It says that Test players have to be released to play in the fixtures leading into that Test series, and so that's our expectation.
So what's the case if they're not? Because Joe Schmidt's indicated that they won't be released after the Force game.
Well, so we'll play the game at the weekend and we'll carry on having discussions with Rugby Australia, with Phil Waugh and the rest of the executive team. We'll take that step by step, but we are encouraged that we'll see a strong side competing at the weekend at the Optus.
How important is that for the whole sort of performance side of it? As you said, the game against the Argentinians on Friday was a big test for you guys, so is it important for the team that you get as big a test as possible in all these matches?
I think it's really important that these games are competitive, of course. Yeah. And it's not just for a performance standpoint. The players do want to test themselves and they do want to build towards the Test series. It's also right for the fans and for the broadcasters and the partners and so forth, who are all expecting competitive fixtures, and for the rugby-loving public here in Australia. I think that would be their expectation as well.
What would you do if they didn't release those players?
Well, we'll come to that. For now, we are clear that in the agreement it says that Test players do have to be released, and we'll move into the game at the weekend, and then what comes after that we'll deal with it in time.
So that's what the Lions CEO Ben Calverley had to say on the matter. A story to keep an eye on. Come with me. So I've come down to the beach here. The Lions were supposed to go swimming. Last minute, they're not going swimming basically. We did just have a chat with Simon Easterby, but walk with us and look who I've found.
Hello.
This is Will Kelleher, Deputy Rugby Correspondent from The Times.
Deputy to the Rugby Correspondent, Alex Lowe.
That's the joke, isn't it? So let me get it following me a sec. There we go. If I get it like this, I'll get you in shot better. Will, we've just been doing the podcast, The Ruck from The Times, which you can get from wherever you get your pod from.
Strong plug.
Thanks, yeah, very much. Real subtle, that one, eh? Quite big news from what Calverley had to say, wasn't it? And quite punchy for him.
Yeah, put his head above the parapet and has basically called out Joe Schmidt, kind of saying our expectation is that the Wallabies play in the tour matches, which the All Blacks did in 2017. It was a bit different in South Africa last time because everything was COVID bubbles, wasn't it? But they think that there should be more Wallabies sent back for these tour matches, and there will be 5 Western Force players playing against the Lions on Saturday, but the others, Joe Schmidt is not prepared to release his Wallabies for. So yeah, it's a bit of a row brewing, Alfie, perhaps.
How much of a danger do you think is there that the Lions don't get the preparation they need? I think there's a good chance the Argentina game ends up being quite comfortably their toughest test, which makes sense. I mean, Argentina are the 5th ranked international side in the world.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because this is often a theme of Australian Lions tours. Like, if you go back to the first full-on Aussie Tour in 1989, all the stories at that point were, are they good enough to sustain a full trip? And they were that year, and the Lions ended up going 1-0 down and winning the series 2-1. And then 13, there were quite a lot of blowout games. They actually lost one, didn't they, to the Brumbies when they had to bring
two
Shane
points,
Williams in from talkSPORT Studios and things like that. But I don't know. What they don't want is a massive load of blowout tour matches for performance reason, because that doesn't prepare them very well for the test. And then a commercial reason and a sort of sponsorship and partnership reason, which is very Lions in the modern era.
Yeah.
Because these games are meant to be capacity crowds and good for DHL and good for all of these other sponsorship opportunities. And if the games are one-sided and pretty rubbish, then that's kind of not really good for anyone. And look, it's not sold out, is it, the Optus?
Well, that was the other thing, yeah. So we asked them about this. I was looking this morning, quite a few tickets available.
20-odd thousand.
And I didn't realise it was that many. And then Ben Calverley said they're expecting about 45,000, and it's a 60,000 seat capacity, which I suppose there's two ways of looking at it. Number one is that's a lot of empty seats for a Lions match. Number two is 45,000 is a pretty good crowd in a state in Australia which isn't massive for rugby union.
And look, let's be frank, the Western Force are the worst out of the Super Rugby teams from Australia.
Yeah.
So getting 40-odd thousand to watch them, they wouldn't get that in a normal Super Rugby round, would they? And clearly the Lions, as they often tell us, will bring a lot of people out of the woodwork. But yeah, I don't know, it's one or the other. I mean, the Lions, in going back years and years and years and years, used to get 50, 100,000 people in for matches in South Africa and all sorts of places. So,
and it'll be close to 100,000. I know it's a test match, but for the MCG, I think that's sold out, because my family in Victoria haven't been, or the only tickets they could get were like $400. So
wow.
I think that will be a hell of an occasion. But yeah, a good talking point. I think the Lions need to be tested. And is there a storm brewing between Rugby Australia and the Lions? And I suppose actually the other thing to say with that, it might blow over, it might be nothing, but there's often talk of should the Lions tour somewhere else, Argentina. Should they take tours elsewhere, maybe one to France? If Australia, we don't know how competitive they're going to be, but if they're not as competitive as people perhaps suspect that they may or may not be,
and get battered in the series,
if they get beaten in the series, if they're not putting their Wallabies players into some of the tour games, it's the sort of thing that could not force the Lions' hand, but influence them.
Well, also at the moment they used to do these tours in sort of like 3 tour blocks. They'd organise the 12 years as one thing, whereas nowadays they're doing them as individual kind of joint marketing agreement type thing, joint ventures they call them. So the New Zealand tour will happen in 29, but after that, not absolutely certain where they go. They'll definitely go to South Africa after that, as usual. They're never going to throw them out of the touring schedule. But then the one after that, 12 years from now, is interesting. What does Wallaby rugby look like at that point?
Got to interrupt you quickly here, Will, just quickly.
Here we go. Our colleagues from the Daily Mail.
Content creators from the Daily Mail, look. Just the media on the beach.
He's
trying to get
swear words in the sand.
All sorts of different content, but there you go.
But yes, if the Wallabies or Australian rugby as a whole withers on the vine a bit, over which it kind of has done over the last 20 years, if it keeps withering for another 12, then why wouldn't the Lions look at going somewhere else? Like, it's all the way back to 89. Can Australia sustain a full-blown Lions tour? Certainly France could. And there are different logistical challenges with that, with top 14 moving their finals and all sorts. But money talks, and the Lions have got a lot of that.
Commercially, you know that would be successful. I reckon you're going to see more of Will over the next 6 weeks. We're working loads together.
Subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Click the bottom. How do you do the thing?
Yeah, subscribe. Drop a comment down below. Let us know what you make of it. You'll hear more of Will. As I've said already, you can hear us on the Ruck Pod from the Times, and you can read all Will's pieces from out here in Australia.
Yeah, subscribe to the Times as well, I should say that.
There you go, that's your opportunity. Tell the world. All right, next up, so Lions didn't come swimming here. They are doing media access across town. So we're going to get across town and hopefully chat to a few of the players, but we'll see what happens. Now, the nature of some of these days is I plan to take you with me the whole time, and then it all gets a little bit hectic and you're jumping around. So after the beach, we did get to the England team hotel and I spoke to Ollie Chessum. I want to play you this story. I absolutely love this, about who he's rooming with and why that's particularly special.
So I'm with Big Joe McCarthy. So as 2 young locks have been paired together. It's a real nice spot where we are here in Perth. I think the lads have been pretty complimentary of the rooms, big beds, nice space. So my boys are really happy to be here.
So second row union with you guys, and
Yeah.
you played against each other, right, in the junior age groups. I know you'd have played against each other for England and Ireland as well. But
yeah, it's a bit of a, I wouldn't say full circle, but it is a bit, surreal. Like we played, it was counties, England county schoolboys, so not even the academy pathway. Joe was playing for the Irish equivalent. We played each other at Donnybrook, which we actually drove by, obviously, whilst we had a little stint in Dublin last week. So to be rooming together now on a Lions tour, if you look back, I don't know what it had been now, 6-7 years ago, we were both playing at Donnybrook against each other, and now we're roommates on a Lions tour, so it's pretty cool.
that's a pretty amazing moment, isn't it? That must really partly put it into perspective for both you guys. I can't imagine back then that you would have been thinking, oh, he could be a Lion, I could be a Lion. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think you dream of the Lions, don't you, when you're a kid, but I don't think you necessarily always believe it's ever actually going to happen. So for one, for that to have happened, and then two, obviously to have ended up in the same room together. But no, it is really cool. And yeah, it's, part of what the Lions is all about is getting to know the lads from other countries. I know we obviously, like I said, we played against each other, but it was very brief. So to get to know each other now, I think lads are really starting to form sort of friendships and relationships on the tour. Obviously, we've been together as a whole squad now for coming up to a week. So no, it's been really good.
So, been to the England team hotel, spoke to Ollie Chessum in the end, had a good chat with the England second row. But it's not all glamour on tour. I'm just waiting for my takeaway pizza before going live onto talkSPORT 2. Live show today, 8 p.m. my time, so 1 p.m. in the UK on talkSPORT 2. Got to do that. Got to edit a podcast that I did with Will earlier. And that'll be it for a day. Another day on the ground covering the British and Irish Lions.